Boy, there's no better steward for the messaging and the history of the Negro Leagues than our friend Bob Kendrick from 18th and Vine to Studio K. Good to see you, Bob.
Man, it's great to be seen, and it's great to be here in studio. First time. I don't know why it's taking so long for you all to get me here in the studio. Now, I've talked a number of times, but it's usually by phone or by video, satellite, or something like that. But this is my first time in the studio, man. I feel like my career is moving in the right direction.
Well, you'd be the first person to say that, because usually it's by the time they're here, it's coming this way. But I'm glad you feel differently about it. Hey, so Harold's been keeping us posted. I know you were in Kansas City at the museum not too long ago. Big year, right? 100-year anniversary.
It is. It's a big, big year. We're so excited about the potential of what this celebration means for baseball fans, but obviously for the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum as we get to tout what we believe is one of the most significant occurrences, not in baseball history, but in American history. And that was the formation of the Negro Leagues established in Kansas City in 1920. As a matter of fact, just right around the corner from where the Negro League Museum operates, the old Purcell YMCA. The building is still there, and it's going to become the future Buck O'Neill Education and Research Center. So we're actually, Matt, going right back into that building on February 13th, on the actual 100th birthday of the founding of the Negro Leagues, and we'll have a big press conference there to announce our full plans for this Centennial celebration year.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And in some of the plans, getting a chance to talk with Bob in Kansas City, there's so many players to unpack and talk about. Josh Gibson, Satchel Paige, Cool Papa Bell, but Oscar Charleston.
Yes.
Tell them a little bit about Oscar Charleston and what you plan to do to recognize him a little further.
Well, the late, great Buck O'Neill would say without hesitation that Oscar Charleston was the greatest baseball player he ever saw. Now, he believed Willie Mays to be the greatest major leaguer. And I think most baseball fans would concur, particularly fans of that era would concur. But he believed that Oscar Charleston was the greatest baseball player he ever saw. Could do it all, man. Consummate 5'2" guy, hit for power, hit for average, could field, could run, could throw, and was flamboyant. He would fight you, you know, so he had, I guess if you were going to compare him to a major league contemporary, he had the defensive prowess of Tris Speaker, the tenacity of Ty Cobb, and the bat of Babe Ruth rolled into one dynamic package. And Harold Bucksay never saw a center fielder who could go back on the ball the way Charleston could. So you remember the catch that Willie Mays makes in the World Series. Great running over the shoulder basket catch. And quite frankly, the throw was better than the catch. But everybody remembers the catch because he ran a country mile, probably could have only made that catch in the Polo Grounds. Well, all the old timers in the Negro League say, had that been Oscar Charleston, he'd have been waiting for that to come down. Yeah, he was that astute in center field. But as Harold alluded, the first game of the inaugural 1920 season was played in Indianapolis, May 2nd of 1920, featuring the Indianapolis ABCs and the Chicago American Giants. And so we're going back to Naptown to commemorate that first game. But we recently discovered that the great Oscar Charleston is buried in a cemetery in a rather nondescript gravesite. And so our goal this year is to go back to Indianapolis and try to really rectify a situation that deserves to be done. We need to put an appropriate headstone on the grave of Oscar Charleston.
Wow.
A player of his magnitude.
Wow.
And so we're looking to go back to Indianapolis as part of this 100th anniversary celebration and do something that should have been done a long time ago, and that's a proper headstone on the grave of Oscar Charleston.
I'm always fascinated in your role, and we've asked you this before, but now that the 100th anniversary is rolled around, it's not only an opportunity to educate people and grow the message, but to perhaps add to the collection, because
absolutely.
Right? I mean, a lot of these guys they're older now, and it's got to be harder to get stuff to put in the museum.
Of course it is. And that's what we hope this platform, this national platform that's being created right now, it will help a lot of baseball fans in particular understand that there is a Negro Leagues and that there was a Negro Leagues and that there is a Negro Leagues museum operating in Kansas City. And so if they're sitting on some stuff, or maybe they'll go up into the attic or down in the basement because they'll remember that, Uncle such and such had something, or Grandpa so-and-so had something. Let me see if I can find that and send that over to the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, because you're right, the window of opportunity as it relates to the players closes virtually every day.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of if. It is simply a matter of when they're all going to be gone. But as we talked when Harold and the crew were in town last week, the story should not die when that last Negro Leaguer leaves the face of this earth. Their story deserves to live on. And I think when Buck formed the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, that was the motivation. And you know what, guys? In the final equation, that's what we all want. We all want to be remembered. And he did not want those players to be forgotten. And he didn't want what they had accomplished in the face of tremendous social adversity to be forgotten. And he always believed that it could be used as a teaching tool.
And the one thing, I was talking about this earlier in the week, we had Lauren Meyer here, who
Yes.
with us tonight.
Absolutely.
So I'm going with you tonight.
Yeah.
To Yogi Berra Museum at 6 o'clock, by the way. Anybody out here in the Tri-Cities should go. But one of the things that I was talking about the other day, you can't have American history without knowing about the Negro Leagues. And I saw one of the signs when we were showing through the museum about night baseball.
Yeah.
And so we don't have a whole lot of time, but tell the story of night baseball. This is kind of an insight into how this Negro Leagues fits into American history.
Yeah, no, it's incredible, and it's eye-opening for a lot of people when they come to the Negro Leagues Museum to learn about the innovative nature of what the Negro Leagues represented. Advents such as the batting helmet, shin guards, these things all come out of the Negro Leagues. And as Harold mentioned, night baseball. Night baseball originated in the Negro Leagues 5 years before they were playing night games in the major leagues. Now, the history book says that the first professional night baseball game was 1935, Crosley Field, Cincinnati, Ohio, Cincinnati Reds versus the Philadelphia Phillies. Well, the history book is wrong. The first professional night baseball game, 1930, and it featured our very own Kansas City Monarchs. J.L. Wilkinson, who owned the Monarchs, literally mortgaged everything he had to pioneer night baseball. Portable, generated light towers. So not only could they play a night game in Kansas City, they could load them up and play a night game virtually anywhere. And so when you guys were talking about Justin with the beard, it reminded me of the fact that the Kansas City Monarchs and the House of David, the great bearded all-white baseball team, they had taken night baseball all the way out to Seattle before they played that game in the major leagues. But again, American historians have essentially done us all a tremendous disservice. They kept this wonderful piece of baseball and Americana away from us. So we've all gone through our formal educations without knowing. And as my mother would say, you don't know what you don't know. And so it's our job to help people know. And I hope that people will embrace this history, as baseball fans typically do.
Yeah.
We're the most nostalgic group of any sports fans.
No doubt.
And I think that's why people have really grown to fall in love with the Negro Leagues.
Boy, spot on, as always, Bob. Good to see you, man. Thanks for being here.
Man, it's great to be here.
Have fun tonight at the screening.
No, it's, I'm so proud of what they're doing over the Yogi Berra Museum and hosting our wonderful exhibit, Discover Greatness. And if you can't make it out tonight, make sure you stop by there and see this wonderful traveling exhibition. And again, we tip our cap to all those folks over at the Yogi Berra Museum. And it gives me chills to think about my first visit there and to remember the great Yogi Berra, who embraced these athletes when others weren't.
Good stuff. Good to see
Awesome,
you, Bob.
man.
18th and Vine in Kansas
Always a
City,
pleasure.
or perhaps tonight in Montclair, New Jersey.
Yes, sir.